So Peter, the distiller at Kingsbarns Distillery, and he's going to introduce Dram C to you. So if you could have Dram C.
Good stuff. Get Dram C cracked open. Thanks a lot, Justine, and it's been great to hear from the other producers and distillers, Murray and Paul, and it's going to be great to hear from those following on from me as well. I'm actually in the distillery tonight. I thought it would be a good idea to give you all a wee whistle-stop tour, because the production of whiskey, of spirit, is really what I'm really kind of passionate about. And I think showing people every aspect of the production process that's going to contribute profoundly to flavour is the important thing, because flavour at the end of the day is what we're all looking for. A little bit of background to the company. Well, we're a new distillery. We were established in 2014 and we started distilling in 2015. We're a family-run, independently owned distillery, owned and operated by the Weems family, who actually have ancient ancestral links to Fife, which is a nice sentimental thing. And yeah, from the very outset, we knew that we wanted to produce a very light, fruity, elegant style, something that you might class as kind of typically lowland in style. So every single aspect of the production process has been geared towards that. But not only that, we really wanted to make this a spirit of, well, with a sense of place. We wanted to give it terroir. So we use Fife grown barley, we use mineral-rich water drawn directly below the distillery. And we matured all our casks in Fife as well, in a distillery that you might be hearing from a wee bit later in one of their warehouses. Yeah, so onto the production process, because I think let's get cracking on with that. I want to show you the mash tun. We're a relatively small distillery, so 1.5 ton capacity mash tun there. 1.5 ton batch, and we're milling our malt and putting it into the grist bin over there. Industry standard kind of grist consistency of 70% middles, 20% husks and 10% flour. But so what's quite nice is you can see the colour of the wort, or that sugary liquid, coming out the bottom of the mash tun. So if you produce a really clear wort, you tend to get a more ester rich, kind of elegant style of make out of that. Or what happens, you'll tend to more nutty or spicy characteristics coming through. So we're aiming for a really clear wort there. What we're going to do is we're going to ferment that in one of our 4 stainless steel washbacks. And we're going to use 2 strains of yeast. Now, quite a lot of distilleries will just use 1 traditionally. I'll show you inside one of these. But the thinking here was we wanted to use 2 strains so that we get a bit of balance and a little bit of complexity in the fermentation before we even get to distillation or maturation down the line. So the first yeast we used is called Anchor. It's been used for decades, and it gives you a nice rounded flavour profile. It's efficient in what it does. So the yeast metabolizes or eats all the sugar and produces a good yield of alcohol. But the other yeast that we've opted to use is Fermentus, and it's much more of the kind of fruit producer in terms of flavour. So the blend of the 2 of them gives us a wee bit of balance and a wee bit of elegance, because we need to make sure that all the flavour is in there. As a lot of distillers will tell you, the important bit is making sure you've got some character in your fermentation before you run on to distillation, because the stills are only ever going to concentrate the flavour that you've made previously. So very traditional double pot still distillation, once in our wash still, which is 7,800 litres capacity, and the second time in our spirit still. You might notice quite long line arms there, these pipes connecting the top of the still to the condenser, the shell and chip condenser. And we take a very high cut point as well. We run the stills very slowly. So we're only trying to capture the kind of the most tropical fruit segment of the run, which is right up there pretty much when it starts to come off the spirit still. So we're really only trying to target that kind of elegant fruit segment. At the end of the day, we end up with about 800, 900 litres at 73%, and we're going to water that down, and we're going to put it into casks. And that's where we're going to come into this baby. So this is the family reserve, and it's a cask strength version of our Dream to Dram, which is our flagship malt. So this really is kind of the distillery character, I would say. And for a new distillery, it's very important to try and let people know what they can expect from you. So this bottling here really is about trying to let people know what kind of style is it, what's the distillery DNA, what can you expect from Kingsbarns. And it's very light, very elegant, very fruity. The cask types that we actually use is 90% first fill bourbon. So these casks have been used once for bourbon, and then they've been shipped across whole, and then they've been sent to us. So 90% first fill bourbon, and I think bourbon casks work really well with Kingsbarns new make spirit. It's always about trying to make sure that the spirit character is balanced off against wood, because you don't want to spend so much time and effort trying to make a spirit with a bit of interest, a bit of grace, and then bludgeon it to death with oak or previous contents of another drink. You know, whether that be port or heavy sherry. And don't get me wrong, I love these whiskies when they're matured in them, but for us, when we're making a very light kind of style, we're wanting to make sure that it's balanced off nicely. I've actually got two of these here. So you've got the bourbon cask is the darker one, 200 litres capacity. That lighter one is the other 10% that makes up the maturation of this dram. It's called a shaved, toasted, recharred cask. And it's a red wine cask. The inside has been shaved and then gently toasted and then recharred. Bourbon casks are the backbone of this dram. It gives you all the tropical notes, obviously all the vanilla, that sort of, the bourbon influence that you get. But then these shaved, toasted, recharred wine casks, that is really the glue that holds the dram together. It gives it a bit of richness. It's very, very dark whiskey. It's very rich. It's very plummy. It's very spicy. So to add a little bit into the Dream to Dram or the family reserve, it really does make quite a profound impact. Yeah, so Slange, when you're ready, I'm sure a lot of you have probably been having a little taste as we've been going. But I find this quite kind of floral in the nose, I would say. Definitely pineapple and mango as well. There's a bit of tropical fruit and kind of soft up front. It's 3-year-old whiskey, so it is young. There's maybe a little bit of ginger spice in the end. But natural colour, non-chill filtered. It's 59.2% strength. And I think it's retailing for about £60. And I know we've still got some bottles here at the distillery, but it's just a limited release. So yeah, I'm hoping you're all enjoying it. It's a good start to the evening.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for that, Peter. Can I just quickly ask, obviously Kingsbarns has won a lot of awards recently, and Weems, the family, malts have also gone through a bit of a transformation in terms of packaging and bottling and things like that. And have you found that has increased sales, I suppose, is what I want to ask, as that transformation that you've gone through helped promote you as a small new distillery? Do you feel that has added to your exposure?
No, definitely. I think it's about trying to make sure for marketing from that side of things that that the packaging does justice to the liquid, really. So that's what it's all about. As a small company, this year has been extremely weird. For any company, it's been extremely weird. But being a relatively small team, we've been quite agile and been able to kind of turn around quite quickly and focus our efforts you know, we're not like a big tanker that has to take such a long time to change what it's doing. You know, we're quite small, young, agile, so we've managed to kind of focus our efforts on, well, a lot of it's been kind of social media campaign as well, making sure that people know about what you're doing, because no one can visit these distilleries at the moment. So you kind of have to bring the distillery to people and show them what you're doing. And it's great to see so many whiskey festivals going online as well, and having such great success there. Yeah. That's what it's all about, definitely.
Yeah, it's great that you're in the distillery tonight. I've stood in between those two stills myself, very small, and it's great that you're there tonight just to give us a wee a tour almost, which is lovely. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Aye.
By the way, if anybody wants to find out a little bit more about the rebrand of Weems, there's a fantastic article in this month's whiskey magazine. The only reason I'm saying that is because I wrote it. So I'm joking. But we've got some great comments in the chat here. So Dave has said that he was holidaying near Kingsbarns and grabbed some of this from the distillery, but the bottle didn't actually last very long. And I think that's it. It is very Moorish, isn't it, as a dram? It's very, very, even this is the wonderful thing about this dram and the previous one, even though cask strength, it's just very, very easy to drink. So yeah, fantastic.
Dangerously drinkable.
That's it. A warming and spicy finish, Jean and Eddie have said. Gary's got custard, banana on the nose, melon, vanilla, and some spice to taste. And Gianluigi and Teresa have got Madeleine. Now, Gianluigi and Teresa, do you mean the wee cakes? Is that what you mean? Yeah, the wee Madeleine cakes. Lemon, ginger, and tropical fruits as well. So we've got quite varied sort of tasting notes there. But I think everyone agrees that this is a cracking whiskey. So thank you, Peter.
I'm glad folk enjoy. Yeah, banana's a good one. I sometimes find that pick up, you know, the banana foam sweets, you know, those sweets you get in a sweet shop. I sometimes find that in our well, in this dram and in Dream to Dram, that's kind of a tasting note that it pops up, rears its head quite often. So
yes, foamy bananas I think is one that I use a lot in my tasting notes. So yeah, I definitely get that in this one as well. It's cracking dram. So did you say that this is still available from the distillery shop? Is that available online?
Yes, I checked with our visitor centre manager on Friday there, and he says there's still some in the shop here. I don't know. Well, you'll be able to get it online as well from the distillery website. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And any, I think John's showing his phone. Have you already bought one, John?
Close.
It's a bit early doors for you. You normally wait until dram number 4 before you start putting everything in your shopping basket.
I've been eyeing up a Kingsbarn for a while, so I need a Lowland whiskey for my collection, you see. So it's a start. It's a nice, fantastic dram anyway. So
good man, John. Enjoy.
Needs to be bought.
And are there any new releases planned for the sort of near future, or are you going to wait until 2022 now?
No, we've got a few up our sleeve. I can't say too much about them yet, but new things that we've not released. We've just recently put out our first sherry matured whiskey, which is called Balcomi, which is 5-year-old whiskey. It doesn't have an age statement on it, but it does have when it was distilled and when it's bottled. So if you have an Excel spreadsheet, you can input those numbers and work out what age it is. Which is great to see our spirit coming out of sherry butts, because it's a kind of different face to the distillery. We've also released just recently 100% STR, shaved toasted recharred whiskey, but there's not very many bottles of that left. I'm not even sure if it's still available. I know we've got a few in the shop, which is, yeah, as I've said, extremely rich, very dark, very plummy. Yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff, and we've released that at cask strength. So yeah, we've got a few different cask types that we're working with, but vast majority of what we fill is first fill bourbon, just because we know it works. Mm-hmm. It works so well with our new make style.
So Gary has a question for you, saying, is the Balcomie matured in Solera casks?
Yes, it is. Yeah, so it's the old Solera butts. So the sherry has already taken out quite a lot of the woody notes, quite a lot of the tannins out of these sherry casks. And what you end up with is sort of the perfect vehicle to mature a very light style of spirit. And when you see this whiskey, it's not like a sherry bomb. It's quite a light, but it is first fill, ex-sherry butts, American oak. So it's interesting to see a sherry take from, on Kingsbarns.
Cool. And Andrew's saying the Kingsbarns STR is a cracking whiskey. Haven't had a chance to try it, but I've heard a lot of talk about it. So yeah, definitely want a source, I think. Thank you, Peter. We're going to have to move swiftly on now to the next.
My pleasure.
If you stay with us, I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions at the end.
No worries.
Fine.